Welcome to Creation Magazine Live. We're going to talk about an article from the magazine. What are we talking about?
Well, this is a pretty interesting title. It's called The Fish Gills Girl.
So say that 10 times fast.
I couldn't even say it once.
Girl.
The Fish Gills Girl. And it's by Dr. David Catchpool. And he's talking about an encounter he had when he was out speaking. Of course, we're speakers with the ministry too, and that is an interesting thing to do because you meet a lot of people that are, believers, and then of course non-believers sometimes you interact with. But this is kind of an interesting.
People probably already know where this article is going to go because many people have been taught, or were taught, or have heard the idea.
That's right.
That when we grow inside mom, before we're born, we go through a type of evolutionary mirror.
Right.
It mirrors the evolutionary process.
Recapitulation.
Where we're at one point a single cell, and then we evolve into fish, where we have gill slits, and then we have a yolk sac, and there's other things.
That's right.
That's
and now that's a very old. Actually, the article, the main article, has a little box beside it. If you look at the layout, it says "No fish for relatives." This little layout kind of encapsulates what you're talking about. The concept of recapitulation. A fellow named Ernst Haeckel, who drew some embryo drawings over 140 years ago now, which are completely fraudulent. They were fraud, and evolutionists and creationists, everybody admits that knows that information, that knows Haeckel completely forged these drawings, and that concept of recapitulation has been totally discredited by evolutionists. Anybody that's informed, an embryologist would admit, no, that doesn't happen.
Right.
But the concept has remained in the general public's knowledge for such a long time. For example, Ernst Haeckel's drawings appeared in my daughter's science textbook 2 years ago here in Canada. Now we're in 2011. That was 2009. These fraudulent pictures are still in textbooks, used in different ways now, not really discussing recapitulation, but talking about the similarities between creatures and how that proves evolution, etc. But the exact same pictures, I think they added some color to them now, were there. So there's a difference between what evolutionists who are informed, like scientists that believe in evolution, will actually admit to, and what the general public perceives.
Yeah, and there's textbook writers and so on. There's sometimes a disconnect between what the scientists are saying
and what the average person believes about evolution.
Right.
So this will kind of tie in to the article. David Catchpool says, one of the most exciting things about addressing church congregations on the creation evolution issue is meeting people afterwards who recount their own interesting anecdotes on the topic. Recently in Perth, Western Australia, a middle-aged lady approached me and said, "Hi, I'm Carol. I'd like you to meet our living fossil." Here she is, our daughter, Leanne, a living fish fossil. Seeing my bewilderment, Carol and her husband, Des, explained that when Leanne was 12 years old, she developed an inflamed abscess in her neck. The surgeon in Perth, Australia, who drained the abscess explained that it was caused by bacteria infecting an area of cartilage in her neck, which he described as leftover pieces of gill. A legacy of our having evolved from fish ancestors. This is what the surgeon actually said. Oh, that's a piece of leftover gill. As the Burgess family emerged from the post-op consultation room, Leanne's brother David turned to her and said jokingly, "See, I always knew you were lower on the evolutionary scale than me." And when Leanne's school heard of what happened, her teacher called Leanne the fish girl, a reference also to Leanne being a school champion swimmer at that time. But Des and Carol had raised their children to have a biblical worldview. They had, in fact, been subscribing to Creation Magazine.
Oh, cool.
A couple of years earlier. So they knew that the surgeon's claims about fish gills were wrong. Hence David's comment to his sister, which was very much tongue-in-cheek, jibe at the doctor's ignorance. Creation Magazine had earlier reported that the fish gills story was widely believed and promulgated in medical circles, despite their own textbooks plain teaching that this belief is false. So even though textbooks, no, this isn't true, it's still out there. It's just the concept, right? Because evolution is so popularized. Des sent the surgeon a photocopy of the Creation Magazine article about the alleged fish gills boy. There was a previous article talking about this same type of thing. He says, "Would you believe it, that was in the most recent issue of the magazine. God's timing is so amazing." Right when we needed it. The explanation that the cartilage in Leanne's neck was human, not fish cartilage, and it was misplaced. Only Creation Magazine has given an intelligent reason as to why that misplaced cartilage is there. Well, we actually know in every one of our cells we have the DNA of everything in us, right? And it depends on how that DNA gets expressed in each cell. So obviously, the cells in my nose should be expressing the information needed for my nose, not
cartilage and so on. Yes.
Right. But if for some reason there's a mutation or some kind of glitch, then you can get things showing up where they shouldn't.
So then the information for your nose is also in your cheek cells, right?
That's
and
right.
in your neck cells and so on.
That's why you
as
could
the
get
pictures here
any
show.
cell from anybody, and you'd have the complete DNA package from any one of their cells.
Right.
Des said he prefaced his letter to the doctor with, "I appreciate what you've done for us, but I thought you ought to be made aware that the evolutionary leftovers of Gill's ideas have been refuted by your own people," basically. He particularly drew the doctor's attention to the Creation magazine article reporting that the pathologist who examined the boy's alleged fish gill cartilage said that it was indistinguishable from ordinary human cartilage. Although Des never received a reply, that was not the end of the Burgess family's contact with the medical fraternity on this issue. Because in 2001, when Leanne was 18 years old and studying first-year nursing, the abscess suddenly inflamed again, swelling to the size of a large apple within 2 hours.
Whoa.
This time, surgeons removed some pieces of the cartilage from Leanne's neck, whereas last time they'd merely drained the abscess. The Burgess family were living in Melbourne at the time, a city with a top reputation for its medical professionals. But again, the same fish gills theory was told to them in Perth as it was 6 years previously. So, you know, very knowledgeable, cutting-edge medical team, but still this concept of fish gills. But Des was ready to challenge the resident doctor. "You don't really believe that, do you? Even your own people have refuted that." The young doctor replied, "Well, that's what they're telling us at medical school. Not the textbooks, but the professors, doctors themselves are passing this on." So the doctor himself was saying, "Well, yeah, actually in the textbooks it says that's not right,
That's
but
not
the
there.
profs are still promoting this idea," right? Which isn't very I don't know, ethical, in my
Interesting.
opinion.
Well,
to be honest, if you've already proven something's not true, why keep repeating the same thing over and over again?
well, and it may not be deliberate, right? They may not be deliberately teaching that. It's just that's what they were taught, and oh, it's not in the textbooks. Well, I'll just innocently add
Mention
some
it.
information that really the student should be getting.
Right.
I don't know if we should say, you know, they're doing that
Well,
deliberately.
you know what? If
should
you've
know
got
better,
yes,
right?
if you've got conclusive evidence that that's not true, then if you're teaching it, then it's false. But
Yes.
anyway. Leanne, who now works as a full-time nurse, concurred that this was her experience too. Throughout her nursing degree training, evolutionary presuppositions were rampant. Subjects were taught as if evolution were true. Although Leanne herself was inoculated against such teaching by her upbringing in a biblical worldview, she said it would be a hard struggle to turn the situation around. There were only very limited opportunities for students to challenge the teachers, although of course students were free to discuss amongst themselves what lecturers had said. So it just fleshes out the rest of the story, and like I said, it has that box in there that talks about those embryo drawings, which everyone acknowledges are fraudulent.
Yes,
and
and that's of course on the website. If you're watching this on YouTube or wherever, you'll have in the descriptive text there a link to this article and the Haeckel's drawings. It was 1874?
something
Was
like
it
that. Yeah, it's
in
almost
the
140 years
1800s,
ago. Yeah.
That he made these drawings showing the similarities. Again, you can see them there on the website.
Right. So I think it's a neat article because it highlights the difference between, you know, what's actually in the books and what's actually, I guess you could call it fact or as close to what we know about these situations, and then the difference between the general public perception and these common stories that just keep getting told over and over and over again. So it's a good idea. Check out what you think might be fact. Go to our website and you'll get some new information.
That's right.